This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and I'm super pleased to have on the line with us the director, producer, writer, founder of Tree Media, a documentary filmmaker. She made The 11th Hour with Leo DiCaprio way back 15, 20 years ago, thereabouts, that I'm in. And Leo and I did 4 short videos that you can find on the internet over at greenworldrising.org. Leila did those. She put those together. She has a new movie out. It's called We the People 2.0, the Second American Revolution. It's about the brilliant work that Thomas Lindsay, who's been a guest on this program many times, and his good friends at CELDEF, Community Environmental Legal Defense Fund, are up to. Leila, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
And I should say, to people who want to find it, the movie is at wethepeople2.film. wethepeople2.film. And you can tweet Leila at Leila, L-E-I-L-A, Conners, C-O-N-N-O-R-S, or E-R-S, excuse me. So, Leila, tell us about the movie.
Well, as you mentioned, Tom runs CELDEF, and that is an environmental law firm that helps small communities protect themselves from polluters and harms that are usually perpetrated by corporations that have basically more rights than people do. So, for example, some of the first work that they did was in Pennsylvania, rural Pennsylvania, where people were getting sludge and fly ash pits. There was one community that was surrounded by over 20 fly ash pits. And when they came together to build consensus to say, you know what, we don't want any more fly ash here, they found out they didn't have the power to say no because state law preempted their local law. And when they, participated in the democratic process and voted to say, no, we don't want fly ash, they found out that, the fly ash companies had permission by the state to dump in their neighborhood, and they had no recourse. So we found out that the environmental crisis that we're experiencing with climate change, with the polluted air, polluted water, degraded soil, has a lot to do with law. And so that's why we decided to make this film, because where the rubber hits the road, again, is with law and with citizenship. And so we made this film to bring this to the fore, to bring it into the conversation.
Is one of the goals of the movie to reach out to people in communities that might be under assault by corporate, whether it's a giant hog farm or whether it's an industrial waste, treatment plant or something? Go ahead.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is basically a mixture between a film and a primer. It's sort of a how-to to get your community going on this kind of work, because essentially a lot of communities will find themselves trapped in what we call the regulatory framework. So let's just say there's a fracking site or, again, another dump site or flash pit that may be polluting a water source. You will spend years trying to fight, either prove whether or not this activity is polluting your water, or is it violating a permit, or is there a regulation being violated. And that can go back and forth in the court for years. And meanwhile, people are getting sick and dying, literally. So rather than fight that regulatory battle, which is somewhat of a red herring, what Thomas Lindsay and CELDEF argue quite rightly is that as human beings who have a sovereign right to their health, safety, and welfare, they can simply say, listen, we would like no poisons in our water. Water is a right. We have a right to clean water, and therefore that's it. We don't need to argue the regulatory framework. We're just going to argue that we want our community safe. And so that is actually working. And the film is being screened in small communities around the country who are facing all sorts of things. And thanks to you and the show last week, we got several new communities that started screening the film because they are facing various harms.
This is great. It seems that the argument that conservatives have made for years and years about local control and states' rights as a subset, and local control being a subset of that, have largely been, we have the right to discriminate against black people. We have the right to that's been probably 95% of it, all this state rights, local control, or, or we want to cut off federal funding for, undeserving people or whatever, in the conservative world. But it seems that if you were to say local communities should have the right and power to assert their own, their own control over their own community. In other words, to keep their own air clean, to keep their land, pristine, to keep their water pure. That seems like, given conservative rhetoric, that would be the most conservative argument you could make, the most, kind of classically small c conservative. I don't know if there's a small j Jeffersonian, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear what you mean.
And yet the conservative infrastructure, including all these judges who came up through the Federalist Society and got appointed by Republicans, they all tend to defer to the state saying, no, we're going to preempt your power, local community, to declare yourself a no pollution zone or a no fracking zone or a no hog farm zone.
Yeah.
We are not going to let you do that. And these corporate conservatives are in support of stopping that, it seems. I mean, what's the dynamic here?
Well, I think you laid something bare there, which is that those people, there are people that navigate and use the law to achieve their ends better than others. And for a very, very long time, corporate behavior has used law to execute their aims very, very effectively. So in the case that you just mentioned, sometimes it's better that they work at the state level. Sometimes it's better at the federal level. And, sometimes conservative, obviously, agendas work at the local level. Now, remember, this work of cell death is to expand rights, not to contract rights. So it would never, ever allow for, prohibition on anything. For example, with the same-sex marriage, it would never come into play there. It's always an expansion of rights, building on the rights that we already have. And what we're trying to do is remind people that in a democracy, in a functioning democracy, people are sovereign. People are the foundation upon which this country has been built, and therefore what they say goes, not what a corporation says goes. And so right now we're really of, by, and for the corporations, not of, by, and for the people, effectively on the ground. There's been many studies now that have come out that said if you look at the will and the polling over the last 20 to 30 years, the will of the people has not been played out in law. It's mostly the will of the corporations. And so, again, it's not so much anti-corporate as in the corporate form as a concept. It's anti-corporate in how it behaves in our legal system against human beings and communities. So we're looking at a framework wherein corporations can work side by side with communities to support health, safety, and welfare, rather than be antithetical to the well-being of people. And so how do we do that? And right now, the system is being played quite effectively by those people that understand law better than these communities do. And a lot of the time, communities and people believe that the higher powers, for example, let's just say state government or the president, has their best interests in mind. Well, that's not entirely true in many cases. If you are in a sacrifice zone, as we see now with Houston, how that's playing out, wherein there's all of these chemical plants and fossil fuel plants, and they've been fighting against regulations for years, look what happens.
Yeah, it's a truly remarkable story. Leila Conners is the director, producer, a writer and founder of Tree Media. She's a documentary filmmaker. The newest film, We the People 2.0, The Second American Revolution. The website is We the People, followed by the number 2, wethepeople2.film. And you can tweet her at Leila Conners, LeilaConners, or at Tree Media Group. Leila, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.
Great having you with us. We'll be back.